As you know, BOE positions are nonpartisan and unpaid. Candidates may run as a slate or individually, and voters have the ability to vote for up to 3 candidates of their choice. As a reminder to our viewers, per the New Jersey School Board Association, the 3 key roles for a Board of Education member are policy, budget, and oversight of the superintendent. BOE members also represent the public during contract negotiations and serve as a communications link between the community and the school system. To begin, each candidate will have up to 90 seconds to provide an opening statement. We have asked them to include strengths they to best represent all 5,000 students enrolled in the district. The order has been drawn from a hat and is as follows: Louis Shen, Christina DeCosmo, Alex Saltzman, then Jamie Ceruto. We will rotate who will speak first after each question, so everyone will have an opportunity to answer a question or provide a statement first. Louis Shen, please provide us with your 90-second opening statement.
Good evening. Thank you, John. Thank you, Amy, Lauren, and everybody else who has made this possible. And thank you to the parents from the PTO, from the PTOC. You guys are the backbone of the district. My name is Louis Shen. I'm running for re-election. 3 years ago, that was my first try at this. I was kind of new to the town. I had 2 very young kids, one in kindergarten, one in first grade. And I was hesitant in what best I could do to contribute to this community. And some friends approached me and they said, maybe you should try the Board of Education because you're good working with people and you come up with creative solutions when we have problems. I was hesitant, but I have to say I'm glad I listened. It was one of the best decisions I've made because throughout this 3 years, I've made many new great friends like John and Simon and everybody from the Ed Foundation. By the way, if you guys have time and resource, please support the Ed Foundation. And I've participated in many great community events. More importantly, I feel I've made a positive impact from redesigning the transportation department, pushing through a new homework policy, and fighting this COVID thing in a very challenging year. Hopefully, in a couple of years, my kids grow up and they can feel proud of me doing this BOE job, because that's the most important thing for me. And I'm seeking re-election with 2 of my friends, Jamie and Alex from the board on the Maintain Excellence team, because I feel even though our perspectives are different, we share the same vision, which is maintain the academic excellence of the district children and make sure they grow up happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina DeCosmo.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Christina DeCosmo. I'm very happy to be here and meet everyone. So my strength that I feel I have is I've been in education for 20 plus years. I've been a teacher of general education, a teacher of special education, a teacher of deaf education, a job coach services connected to private special ed schools, teacher of foreign languages, sign language interpreter, yoga instructor, and after school programs. So I'm in the trenches, living and experiencing decisions that are made. So when I saw the advertisement, and I think I saw the advertisement on a Nextdoor website, I felt a pull in my chest of wanting to give back. I've lived in Millburn for the past 7 years. What else is there? And of course, working with students, you're always solving problems every day. There's never a dull moment. Yeah, that's basically it. But thank you for listening.
Thank you. Alex Saltz.
I'd like to thank all the PTOs and the parents that take time out of their lives and volunteer to greatly enhance our kids' experience in our schools. I also like to thank Mr. Russell Kwong for his service, and I enjoyed serving with him while he was on the board. I've been on the board of Ed for 3 years and have had the privilege of being selected by my peers to be board president for 2 of the 3 years. One of my main accomplishments the first year on the board was leading the transportation committee, where I led our team to resolve the busing issues that had been affecting our district at the time. In the last 2 years as president, I believe my leadership and organizational skills have been effective in leading the board. Our meetings have been productive, focused, diligent, and communicative to our community. I decided to run for the Board of Ed because I wanted to be involved in our community and to have a say in the choices that affect our children that go to our schools. I have 2 kids in the elementary school, so I have a long road ahead in our district. During my time on the board, especially given the recent pandemic, I believe I have made a difference and hope to continue to do so in the years to come.
Thank you. Jamie Ceruto.
All right, thank you very much to the PTOC. I'm Jamie Ceruto, and I'm currently running for re-election on the Maintain Excellence ticket. I want to thank the PTOC for organizing this forum, all the candidates for stepping up, and thank everyone for their contributions to our great school system. And I want to echo Mr. Shen, Louis, please support the Ed Foundation, the PTOC. They do great things. I've had the great privilege of serving on the Millburn Board of Education this past year, and I believe through my experience, strong perspective, and innovative thinking, I can continue to be an asset in the operation of our district. I'm a proud Millburn High School graduate, having gone through the system K-12, growing up in this community. I've served as class president the last 4 years at Millburn High School. I'm an Eagle Scout, have worked locally. I'm an avid community volunteer with a passion for civic engagement. And I've had the privilege of working with so many great people within this community through various events and organizations, and in my favorite spot in town, Taylor Park. Accomplishing a lot during this year with the board, despite the COVID pandemic. We've been able to pass a successful referendum, continue our work on start times, anti-bias, innovation, extracurriculars, homework policies, and beyond. I've had a great experience working with my fellow board members, serving on various committees, and my family has touched upon all the different spheres within town. I believe that together with Alex and Louis, we can maintain excellence and bring our district to the top for years and years to come. This has been a difficult year. We're here to listen to the community, and I look forward to serving the great residents of Millburn if I am reelected. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. And thanks again to the community members who have submitted questions to the candidates. We have prepared some broad categories based on these questions, and candidates will have 90 seconds to respond, and then a further 60 seconds for further clarification or information after each of you has had an opportunity to speak. So we'll keep it in the same rotation order and so I'll call on each of you as it's your turn in the rotation. And then if you have response after everyone has spoken, you'll have an additional 60 seconds after that. So Christina DeCosmo, you're up for question number 1.
Okay.
And it's a couple-parter, so I'll take
Okay.
and if any of you need to ask a little bit more on that, just please let me know. Okay, so the question, please provide your viewpoint on what criteria should be used to evaluate the return to school. What criteria should be in place when COVID is detected by either students, staff, or teachers? And the third part of this question, what measures should be in place to assess if the latest approach is working well?
Okay. All right, that's quite the question. The criteria that should be used in returning to school, the first part.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the very hard question. It's a lot. It's living in it is a lot to deal with, and I feel like the situation that I've been in, it has gone smoothly. Criteria, I would say. It would probably be a good idea to have conversations with neighboring districts because everywhere is dealing with this and everyone is struggling what's the best thing to do because everyone wants to stay safe. And because the heavy measures that have been going on, like the deep cleaning, is going on and the measures of if there has been a case noted, anyone surrounding that person is quarantined for 2 weeks. Everyone is monitored in and out of the building. There are no visitors. And this is just examples of the experience that I'm living in. And I do feel it's good to, like I said before, compare with other districts and see what works.
Thank you. Alex Saltzman.
Just have a question. When you say return to school, what do you mean by, you mean like if there was a case of COVID in the school, or are you talking about like?
I believe the question means to returning to school in person, based on the context. It wasn't written that way, so it's a good question.
Yeah. Well, we've done a lot of work with the superintendent to get the kids back to school as quickly as possible in terms of safety, process, procedures. I mean, these are all have been outlined in the policies that we've already passed. And I mean, as everyone knows, we are obligated by the state of New Jersey to open the schools. There is no option to not open the schools unless we're deficient in some way. And so we've outlined the process and the procedures and what happens when someone is sick. You know, it's hard to explain in 90 seconds, but I'm comfortable with what we have put in place to comply with the state laws and rules and regulations.
The last part of the question was what measures should be in place to assess if the approach is working well or not?
Well, I would say that if we have a problem and then if let's say an infection happens and they follow the process, if they don't follow the process, then we don't have a problem. And if they follow the process and something else goes wrong, then we have a problem. Then we also know we have a problem. And the other thing that we do also, we do learn from other school districts. Dr. Burton has contact with surrounding districts, so we are all learning from one another. Keep that cycle going. Yep.
All right, thank you. And Jamie Ceruto.
Yeah, I think, you know, first and foremost, safety is the top priority within our district. And I think providing students and families the option that work best for them to be safe, as well as the best learning environments. As a board and as a district, you know, we have communicated with other, you know, and Dr. Burton has communicated with other superintendents, board members. We have, you know, tried to gather information from other districts. And I think we've tried to, and it's important to provide families with the option. We've been, you know, lucky to be able to bring in our K through 4 and our special education students self-contained, which is really, really important. We're obligated to open the schools, as Mr. Zaltzman has stated, and I'm very comfortable with our policies regarding cases and tracing, et cetera. There was extensive work done within the board and within the restart and policy committees on those measures. And the second part of the question was on what measures should be put in place to ensure. Can you just clarify that last part?
Assessment. So,
An assessment
how things are moving with the protocols.
Well, I think we have to be very preventative, and I think we've been proactive with the timing of bringing certain students in, and we want to make sure that, I want to make sure, you know, if I were to be reelected, that we're being careful with the middle school and high school plans, you know, so that we have a balance in place. We have our daily protocols, and we are containing cohorts, or we're contact tracing, and making sure that we are keeping our students and faculty safe. This is a, you know, serious situation we're in, and safety is a top priority.
Thank you. Louis Shen.
Yes, I mean, for a challenging topic like this, I think number one thing is safety, and another thing is we have to have a balanced approach. You know, our community has one thing going for them. We have a very diverse population. So being from the Asian American community, I was probably the first person who raised this COVID issue to the district back in January, which is way earlier than some of the other districts. And we talked a lot about this before the state decided to move in and shut down schools. And during the process, one thing I've realized is there are a lot of misinformation out there, and nobody really know how to deal with this new thing. So views tend to be very extreme, and you can't really follow either end of the extreme views. For example, I'll use the example of two Stacys. One is Stacy Tavel, somebody who was a good friend of mine who wrote about reopening school as early as possible. Unfortunately, state guidelines just didn't allow that. And we have experts from the medical community telling us not to do that. And another thing is, one day, for example, about the measures we put in place in the school, I received an email from Stacy Krieger. I don't know her personally, but she had a very good point about maybe we should use face shields in the community instead of the mask because it's more comfortable. But again, I actually went to Dr. Berta and she said, that's not possible because guidelines doesn't allow that. So, and the guidelines changing every week. So it's really important to follow the rules at the same time, make sure we strike a good balance point between people going back to school. And if I can do some follow-up, that'll be great on that question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and definitely you all have 60 seconds for follow-up, and I think this is a big issue for everyone that's involved in the district that's in any way connected with the schools. So whether it's direct to this or just more about the COVID situation that you've heard that is applicable for the Board of Ed with this final 60 seconds, that would be great to hear from you all. Christina DiCosmo, we'll let you lead again for this question.
May I ask you to repeat that question? I'm sorry.
It's the
60 seconds
question. You have 60 seconds to just any further comments on it.
All right, got it. Further comments. Living in it and being around other staff and other students, I do know that in conversations of students, they are happy to be back in school. They did feel that it was depressing being stuck at home and stuck in their room and stuck on the computer. So they are happy to be back and be amongst friends. I do see everyone is very careful and following guidelines of wearing masks, of keeping separate, following lines in the hallways. And I do know that a great deal of thought and discussions and meetings in any district have been all that is carefully and methodically done. Okay.
Thank you. Alex Aldsman.
I just want to add that, as Jamie said also, that we are accountable to the teachers and the staff and to our kids as well. And so the reopening of the schools, the safety and procedures, it's all pretty heavily regulated.
Turn this on so I can listen to the meeting.
Sorry, somebody.
Sorry, someone off me for a minute. You're okay now. We'll a second.
I was just going to say it's very heavily regulated, and so we have to make choices and decisions that involve our staff, involve our students, and also comply with the state, mostly state guidelines, sometimes federal with CDC. And so it's a very challenging situation to balance all of that, and of course, we depend on teachers coming to work and doing the work. Being a teacher, and then we have to have the students come in and make sure that schools are safe and comply with all the rules and regulations. So it's been very challenging. It's a very challenging situation that is constantly evolving.
Thank you. Jamie Cerruto.
Yeah, I want to follow up and say, I personally, feel for all members of the community. And as I stated before, creating that balance, allowing students and families to come back into the building in a safe manner, because it is very important, socialization, et cetera. We've allowed athletics, extracurriculars, and a lot of different programs, which is really, really important. We are accountable to the students and families as well as to our staff and faculty, and we want to give them the same respect as well. But I think going forward, we want to do the plan that follow a plan and provide the opportunities that will allow us to provide a high level of education. You can bring people in and you can have it become a disaster at the same time. So, we want to make sure we have a high level education program, and we do want to give the option and have as much in person, as much in person safely as possible, bringing our middle school and high school hopefully back by November 9th in whatever way, shape, or form that is. And the plans are still being ironed out.
Thank you. Louis Shen.
Yes. So as I was saying, when it comes to safety measures, we simply have to rely on the advice of the experts. I think the district has heavily consulted with people from the health department. Also, I think the district has invited parents with medical backgrounds to talk about what they think what we should do. And the thing is, some of the measures may not be popular because the safer we want to make it, the less convenient it becomes. However, on that, I'm a strong advocate of listening to the parents community, but sometimes it's really hard when it comes to matter of safety. We want to err on the side of caution. We don't want to do a popular thing, but somehow put our students in danger. And given that framework, of course, I mean, on the board, I know Alex and Jamie probably share the same vision that we want to make sure the students have as much flexibility as possible to pursue their academic careers. And so like during the earlier part of the year, I know Sonali, Caroline, Corey, who are excellent board members, work with me on the program committee about making the virtual program as strong as possible. And right now, a lot of people are working on how to return to school in the safest way possible and make sure the students are as productive as possible.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to question number 2. Alex Saltzman, you'll be replying first to this question. It is, what are the 2 to 3 strengths about which our district can be proud, and why do you see these as strengths? The second part of the question, what do you see as the district's weaknesses, and how do you hope to rectify those problems?
Wow. Okay. 2 to 3 strengths. One, I would say our teachers. I feel like we do have excellent teachers, excellent administrators that are deeply committed to our schools. I think that our programming, our curriculum, I think is excellent and is at the top of what you would consider the food chain of what other schools are. If you look even at our high school, the number of classes we offer, just the breadth of education that we offer, I believe is second to none. I believe the third strength are the parents that are the volunteers, and the amount of volunteers, the level of volunteering in our school community helps make our schools what they are. Weaknesses, it's hard to think through the weaknesses. I do believe we can do better in communicating, and something that we've been working on at the board level. Communication to the community from the administration. I think there's just so much going on all the time that sometimes everything doesn't really come through, and hard for me to find. I'm sure there are, but I can't think of them. My time's out.
Jamie Ceruto.
Yeah, I think we have a superb district, having just graduated, and having a family, 20-something graduate in my family. We have seen, such a great extracurricular and I think community opportunities coming from the school district. Our teachers are tremendous. Just the fields of study that they come from, and just like college professors, the personal work that they are doing, and the compassion for the students. And I think that our innovation, we have, basically just the tip of the iceberg with the mill, and with, our world robotics team, and all the technology that we begin to put into our buildings has really brought us to the top. When I look at weaknesses, I think we do a lot of things well, but I think there's a mindset and basically an options, a student path option kind of weakness. I think, there's a central focus, and a goal of being in a certain kind of classes or walking down a certain path, when in reality, if you're choosing what's right for you, you can be extremely successful within our district. And I think we need to continue to educate on the student wellness side and, health and wellness within our classrooms, and bringing that to the homes as well. But I think we do a lot of great things.
Thank you. Louis Shen.
Oh, yes. I mean, there's no question we have a great school district here. I mean, a few years ago, I had an opportunity to go to China with a better financial opportunity, but I decided to come this time because I heard about our schools. That's the number one reason most of the families come over. And after I come here, I've realized our biggest strength is definitely the parents community and the teachers. Not a lot of towns has ed foundations like we do. Not a lot of towns have the amazing parents who are always keeping the district in check and asking for doing better. I'm going to talk about the weakness a little bit because in my experience, I feel when someone has success, they tend to be a little bit more rigid in the way they approach things because they feel it has worked in the past. Why not just keep it going? And I see that in our district as well. When we try to do the homework policy, for example, there were some resistance feelings that why are we making so much more fuss? But the fact is there are students who suffer because more and more homeworks are loaded onto them, and it's hard for them to manage time when you don't give them proper feedback in time. So we really try to push through that, and so far it's worked out great. And hopefully in the future, if I get re-elected, I want to keep it going strong. I want to anticipate the new problems that may show up and have innovations on solving those problems before they become too big a problem.
Thank you. Christina DeCosmo.
Okay, so for me, answering this, not being on the board and being a newbie, I can answer in what I think and what I feel generally speaking. I do know that Millburn schools are, either number 1 or number 2. I do know they excel in our top schools. That much I do know. Strengths, I will always root for and support teachers. I know how hard they work. I know how much they care. And parents are always a very big part of everything. It's teachers and parents go hand in hand. And I can't call them weaknesses because they're more generally speaking things of what I see that can be improved on probably everywhere. And I want to say, Jamie, I was happy that you mentioned student wellness because that was something that I noticed, like mindfulness and helping the students deal with stressors and anxieties. And even generally speaking, because of working in different districts, more choices of courses, and then touching on what is going on in the world, sensitivity amongst minorities, and that communications can always be improved, whether it's student and admin, parents and admin. That's generally speaking, and being that technology is today's world. And I'm done.
Yeah, thank you. And we have 60 more seconds for each of you for any further comments regarding this question. So we'll start with Alex Zaltzman.
Yeah, I'll just kind of add on to what Christina was saying with technology. I know we have invested a lot in our tech infrastructure, all being able to provide Chromebooks to everyone. And also I want to kind of talk about special ed a little bit. I feel like parents that have relied on special education in our district, even early on when I came on the board, I provided so much information, and they were very grateful and thankful about the breadth of services that we do offer for our special ed community. And so I think those are 2 other additional strengths.
Great, thank you. Jamie Saruto.
Yeah, I think our long-term planning is very strong. I think, when we look at our capital maintenance plan having to do with our financial management and our infrastructure, I think we have a great mindset within this district from a board and admin level. I think that we, just want to focus a second on, when we all talk about technology and, the supplementing of the Ed Foundation of Millburn, Short Hills, Millburn Ed Foundation, and, the other organizations in town are really, really strong, and they're great ways for everybody on this call. I'm doing a little plug, to get involved and to continue to support the district. And I think, having an active voice, attending meetings, and, that's a great way to stay connected with the district. And one of the things that I think is great is the active participation. People are not sitting on their hands, and we use the expertise of the town for the betterment of everybody.
Thank you. Louis Shen.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate a little bit more about all the great people I've met since coming to this town. I really think the parents community is amazing because, even during the meetings when people come to show their disagreement, they're always respectful. And here, people really devote their resource and time to their families. And I think that's what makes our district is exceptional. At the same time, when we talk about, in the past, there has been a lot of talk about reducing the pressure from the kids because we emphasize a lot on the academic excellence part. And I think we're doing more of that to address that part of the student life. And also the update of the facilities. I was shocked with some of the bathrooms when I first came. The kids were holding it, refusing to use them before they come home. And now we've solved that. I think we're on the right path. We need to make improvements constantly and now waiting for the problem to explode. So I think we're on the right path.
Thank you. Christina DeCosmo.
All right. So going on in communications, maybe asking the students what they would like to see in their school, what they would like to be improved, what they would like to stay the same, and being, I heard an echo in my voice. And as far as like more choices, the world is always evolving. More choices in courses. The world is always growing and evolving. What once was sewing class has evolved to much more of what opens their minds to a possible job in the future, different ideas, even within technology. There's many choices of a future job. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to question number 3. Jamie Ceruto, you'll be answering this one first. And again, it's a two-parter and remains relatively complicated. So first part of the question, would you support infusing an anti-racist curriculum into our overall curriculum for students on an ongoing basis, not just an occasional workshop, etc.? Then part 2 of the question, what would you do to ensure that we have an inclusive and equitable opportunity for all students, specifically through a racial equity lens?
So I want to say that I'm very proud of the work that we have started within the district. We have and are continuing with our district goal of anti-bias, global diversity, and continuing to engage with our FDU professor, Dr. Joshi. I believe that we need to continue on our path of global diversity and inclusion. We need to continue to engage our stakeholders and to provide students with the tools to create that mindset, specifically in the kindergarten level, and in the middle school, as they rise through the district. Things take time in this district and in every district. And I think an anti-racism policy and our teachings and the books that are being given for summer reading, and the things that the students are seeing in the classrooms and reviewing. This is all a part of their development, and I think it's really important that we're strategic in the way that we are reflecting the world around us. We've seen great changes at the middle school in particular with summer reading, going from Old Man in the Sea to really creative books and reports, and learning more about what is going on in our community. I think equitable and inclusive teaching and events and speakers are really, really important. And I think we can make it more of a day-to-day by providing the students with the tools to make the decisions and to think through their behaviors. This is everything. This is a place of education and learning, and I think that we can continue on our goal with putting in important policies.
All right, thank you. Luke Shen.
Yes, so for the past 2 years, I've been really proud to work on the personnel committee with a fellow board member, Oyen Owolabi, who's African American herself, and we've tried very hard to make sure we review the personnel choices. We reach out to as many qualified minority candidates as possible. I'm also on the township CEDA committee with John yourself. We try to expand cultural diversity through our projects, and the next year I heard that the township is doing a racial task force, which they have invited me as well. When it comes to the school district, I of course, I'm a strong advocate for having as much inclusion as possible. On specific policy questions on curriculum, I'm hesitant to give a strong opinion because I think that need to follow a procedure. We need to review what kind of impact that curriculum has on the entire curriculum as a whole, because it does take resources to shift among the classes. And if it doesn't have any significant drawback on the timing and resources of the other courses, of course, I think it's a great idea to take a look at that concept. And overall, one thing I do like about this town is we have a very balanced view. I think when the BLM movement first started, I took my kids to the street to do peaceful support. But later on, when the more strong message about defunding police, I said, you know what, that's probably going a little bit too far for me personally. So I think we need to have a balanced view toward these things, making sure people understand the structure of the society and make changes in that framework.
Thank you. Christina DeCosmo.
Okay, so my view on this, character education is always important. Accepting yourself, accepting others, and things that I'm gonna suggest are things that I remember of myself growing up, that sharing the beauty of differences in each other. And there's always like people sharing foods, whether it's an evening or a day, and sharing the traditions of their backgrounds. And I know kids love that no matter what age they are. I was very happy to hear, Louis, when you pointed out diversity of art projects, because I know, art and being artistic shows strong emotion and shares a lot. I was also happy to hear that the town has a balanced view. But when I hear like supporting infusing anti-racism, I wouldn't really, not the word anti-racism, more sharing the beauty of everyone's background and who they are, because but that's my input. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alex Saltzman.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm having some technical problems. So this is something that has been our board goal since I've been on the board. And so this is front and center, and it has been front and center for the last 3 years. Am I supportive of infusing an anti-racist curriculum? Absolutely. And as we've shared already over the summer, I believe it was in June, when Kate Diskin, who was the assistant superintendent for curriculum, gave a presentation of a lot of sections of our school district of where we are changing our curriculum and how and what changes that we're making in the future. So this is something that is front and center and will continue to be front and center. It's again one of our board goals, and as people will see, this is something that takes a long time. We have 400 teachers here. We have 5,000 students. Things just don't happen overnight. But I believe since I've been on the board, we have absolutely improved the diversity, just ensuring that this is front and center. That even to the point where we have Dr. Joshi does the trainings with our teachers and our staff. I feel that this is very, very important, and as long as I'm on the board, I will make sure that this issue is front and center.
All right, thank you. And now we have 60 more seconds for any follow-up comments regarding equity and inclusion, and we'll go back to Jamie Ceruto.
Yeah, I want to state that, this and reinforce that this has been this is not a new goal. This is something that, Mr. Westphal Kwong, as serving on the board as well. This has been a goal, and we have made as a district and as a board a lot of progress with regard to professional development, and we have. As we've made significant strides with professional development and almost being able to touch the majority of our staff and faculty. I think we have to create that balance, as Mr. Shen had stated, and provide opportunities for discourse and potentially working with the township, Human Services Commission or board. And providing dialogue within the voices, because we need to shape what the Millburn community looks like. We are our own community, and just because certain things are going on in other areas, we need to figure out what is reflective of our needs, and how can we all fit into the puzzle to make Millburn the best possible with regard to equity and inclusion.
All right, thank you. Louis Shen.
Yes, when it comes to equity and inclusion education, personally, I do feel a steady stream is better than a sledgehammer. Instead of 1 year, 2 year, we do something drastic, it's a lot more important to keep the focus on the topic throughout the years. Because as the community grows, naturally people become more accepting of other views and other backgrounds. And gradually we keep the focus on, and kids grow up, they naturally grow fond of people with a diverse background. And if we can keep that effort going, I think in 5 years, 10 years, without realizing it, we're gonna see a lot of differences. And overall, I do feel the district is trying quite hard, because Christine several times approached me about talking about different effort of being more inclusive of in the district. And again, echoing back to Alex, I do think some things take time. And it's important not to break apart the great things we have in order to get something we think we need to get in the future.
Thank you. Christina DeCosmo. You're on mute, Christina. There we go.
Okay. So I think history teachers will always say that learning the bad that has happened in the past is not allowing it to happen again. And there's been, when I think of different examples of, working in middle school, working in high school, there's interesting whether it was students going to a college, seeing the presenter, or the presenters coming to the school. They were, strongly emotional survivors of prejudices, and also, presenters talking about people who are different and accepting them. I'm not doing much justice in the short time, but they're very strongly emotional and bring across what they mean to bring across. the people who live in the situations.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Alex Saltzman?
I want to add that we have been getting students involved. I think that's an important part of the equation. We have our student liaison committees, which meets with students from the middle school and the high school. We had at our last meeting, which was back in January, right before COVID, or I'm sorry, it could be February, right before COVID. We met with the Black Student Union. We seek to really understand and hear from the students. We're going to continue our student liaison committee meetings. We're going to restart them. Actually, we kind of paused them for a while due to COVID. But this is also a place for us to learn, to hear about what's happening with the students and get feedback and improve from there.
All right, thank you, and thank you all. We're moving on to question number 4. Louis Shen, you'll be going first on this one. Again, multiple parts, and it's finance related on this one. What experience do you have with complicated budgets? When you are given the proposed budget for the district, what will be your process to determine if it is a good budget for the system? Then the third part of the question, what areas do you see as subject to cuts that would help free up monies for any new initiatives that would need funding?
I have to say, that's a very hard question. I run a small company, so I'm intimately familiar with all the finances, spreadsheets, and everything. What happens with the school district, unfortunately, is over 80% is tied up in spendings that cannot be touched. So there's very little margin we can work with each year. And finance committee does a great job reviewing every detail of it. And when I take a look at the budget, I have to say, the first thing that comes to my mind is always not to cut something. It's actually how can we get a little bit more money from either the state or the federal government? Because I do feel everything we've put on the budget, usually it's there for a reason. It's there after a whole bunch of fight already, and it's something the students desperately need. And when we cannot get that extra money, we have to go to Ed Foundation to beg for it, right? And of course, you guys help us out. So if it's totally up to me, if I have to take a knife to the budget, it's you know what? This is one thing I really don't want to make a choice, because how can you say one thing is just so much more important than the other on that spreadsheet? It's hard. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina DiCosmo.
All right. Have I ever worked with a complicated budget? No, other than my living and my side work of freelance interpreting. I wouldn't say that's so complicated. I agree a lot on what Louis had said. When I heard what area do you want to see as cut, that makes me sad, because being the person who works in the school system, you don't want to see any things that are like on their way growing and not getting a chance to fully grow be cut. Process of weighing a budget. Yeah, the question is impossible. What do you see of more value? What do you see of less value when everything that goes into a school is of high value? Yeah, I agree that this is a difficult question. Yeah, I'm gonna end my answer right there. It's hard to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kidding me?
Okay, Alex Saltzman.
Yep. So on the topic of budgets, and I haven't been on a finance committee, but I've sat through quite a few meetings, and so the reality is over 80% of the budget goes to salaries, and the other 20% is spread across pretty much everything else, including maintenance, including athletics, which is not required. People don't even know this. Isn't required in the state of New Jersey. So, that 20% also goes to athletics in the high school, and pretty much all the operational expenses. So when we're talking about cutting budgets, when you start looking at it, there isn't a lot of things to cut. We have an amazing business administrator who is extremely sharp and very, very efficient, even to the slightest detail. Even when you talk about copying machines that we lease or buy them. So I would look to recommendations from her as to what things that could be cut. Sometimes there could be cuts, and there have been cuts. Let's say in technology, esoteric things that people don't even think through. It could be pushing out facilities. It could be pushing out projects related to maintenance. And sometimes we have to cut staff because we don't have enough enrollment in certain schools. So cutting budgets and really going through and really dealing with complicated budgets, I just want people to really understand that the board is really, the way it's set up is that all this work is really done by the district. They come to us with all the work, and we review all that work. So we're not the ones that are actually creating the budget. That's not our role. But we do have conversations about, how do we bridge the gap? And quite frankly, we have to have a balanced budget. So it's state law. So at the end of the day, the budget has to be balanced. There is no, we don't borrow to borrow for next year for our budget.
All right, thank you. Jamie Ceruto.
So I do serve on the finance committee, and I come from a family background in finance, financial literacy. Been privileged to serve with great colleagues on the finance committee and work with, and a lot of kudos to Cheryl Snyder, the business administrator. There's a lot of really great strategic planning and shared services, cost savings, visions within the Board of Education, the Millburn Board of Education's budget. We do have a limited, there's limited discretionary options, but when we look at the capital maintenance plan referendum, where there will be no tax increase, where there's long-term facilities and infrastructure management, and we're able to utilize money that's left over, or that we do have some discretion in the budget to do projects ahead of years, or ahead of the next year, so that we're able to fit, other projects and other and other services within the following year's budget. Our business administrator is off the charts, and I don't really think there is an area to cut. I think there's an area to continue to expand on different areas based on the philosophy that we've created, trying to get certain projects done ahead of time and to use our resources wisely. To the printer and copier notion that Mr. Zaltzman referred to, which is a cost saving measure. It's not something that you would think, but a way of tracking the number of copies and prints can do a lot, and moving things more to online. But we have very sound management within our district, and I don't think there's any question of it.
All right, thank you. And thank you all for noting the constraints, but on your 60-second follow-up, part of the question buried in that question, and we know you need to keep the balanced budget, is the new initiatives part of it. So what would be, say, the one new initiative, if you could find some ways to cut, like a few of you have mentioned a few ways to cut, what would be that one new initiative that you would love to propose to your fellow ed members, if you were able to, if the finance committee was able to find ways to make that happen, or find some extra money, what would that be? Louis, under 60 seconds.
I mean, given the COVID situation, we've actually made some change in funding. For example, with the bus, I think we've kind of cut on the bus program because it's not as needed as in past years. So things like normal stuff, yes, we review them. For example, the obsolete equipment, Alex talked about. It's not like every year we're trying to see whether we can add spending to the spreadsheet. What I'm saying is when we make a choice, whether we want to expand the science program at the expense of the art program, things like that, I think we need to be super careful with, and I'm unwilling to make a strong commitment either way on a meeting like this, because that requires a ton of review. Because, for example, you cut out one teacher who teach the flute, for example, that's 100% impactful for the students who actually study that. So it is a very tricky situation that we cannot just casually go into.
Thank you. Christina DeCosmo.
Well, on this one, I would want to hear out what everyone has to say, what everyone feels the need is. As far as, yeah, that's like that question is a very big discussion. Seeing how people feel and what they feel they need and what they feel needs, what program they feel needs to grow and hasn't had a lot of attention, but that would be lots of conversations and hearing out the staff, hearing out the students, hearing out the parents, and then, you know, collectively see where that leads. That's basically it.
Okay, thank you. Alex Saltzman.
I don't have any specific thing to tell you what I would cut, but I would tell you the process that I would use. If the district came to me and says, Alex, we got to cut $1 million out of our budget. What are you gonna choose? You know, what I would do is I would say, look, tell me the things that are not going to directly impact students. Go off that list, figure out what those things are, and then I would say, what are those things that don't have to be done now, that can wait to next year and the following year, and start from there and create a process to go by to make these cuts. There isn't anything specifically that I'm going to think off the top of my head, whereas I'm going to say, well, we cut this one thing, we cut $500,000 on the budget. I don't have that, but I just wanted to tell people that this is the process that I would use. And I believe this is a process that anyone should use, and not just arbitrarily just say, I'm going to cut this and cut that. Because as Louis pointed out, everything that we cut is going to impact the student in some way. And so we want to be very careful with that.
All right, thank you. And Jamie, you made it back just in time. So
Yes,
good.
I'm sorry. It just closed out. Yes, to follow up, I would say that you know, I'd like us to continue to look at areas where we may not have prioritized. I think it's, like with everything else, quite a balancing act, looking at upgrading our performing arts and our visual arts, looking at our auditorium and the infrastructure to do with our music department and performing arts, I think is very important. I would just continue, as I had stated before, with our philosophies of cost savings, so that we can have those major discussions about different options, so we can have options. I think, you know, sometimes in other districts in particular, you don't have that kind of fluidity, and you have to fluid kind of discussion, and you have constraints. But I think we are privileged that we do happen to have, within the constraints we do, you know, we are not having an emergency, with the exception of COVID time. Even during COVID time, we were able to cover the shortcomings we do have or have had. So all discussion.
Thank you. On to question number 5, and Christina DeCosmo, you'll be first on this. You touched on it a little bit earlier, and now you'll have some time to expand on it.
Okay.
So the question is, there has been a lot of discussion in our community regarding the health and wellness of our students, with added levels of anxiety and uncertainty during these complicated times. What do you think is the board's role in dealing with student wellness?
What I see, and I don't know if it's become a big thing, like I know guidance counselors first staff will, send emails on mindfulness and, meditation. And I do know there's a school curriculum out there for mindfulness on all levels, elementary, middle, and high school, which talks about how I was reading something that said, you think only the young children need the mindfulness exercises. And it's really the older students, their big transition periods, the period that they're going out into the real world and to function with everyone else. I did recently attend, it was a very good 2-day workshop on mindfulness, and there was different psychologists who work with children teaching mindfulness. It's just helping them find a different avenue to relieve their stressors and relieve their anxieties, and how they feel about themselves, and seeing the good qualities they have in themselves and seeing good qualities they have in others. So it does tie a lot to guidance counselor. It does tie a lot to, a little bit to character education. But being a yoga instructor, I do have that strong feeling, that mindfulness is very important.
All right. Thank you. Alex Saltzman.
So I think that ensuring teachers are flexible in terms of homework and schoolwork during the day, as the students return to a hybrid environment, that's the best thing we're going to be able to do this school year. You see in my kids, if my daughter is late for a few minutes because there's a glitch in the computer, being aware of that. If the kids can't understand something and they need extra help from the teacher, I think being able to go to the teacher and have the teacher be more available, I think it's very, very important. And providing resources for parents if they feel that there's something going on and the kids are stressed out, being able to at least guide them in the right path. And also with the curriculum, making decisions when we modify the curriculum or adjust it, or even when to the extent of making daily plans for teachers to account that some students are going to react differently than others to remote learning, which is something that we're going to have to deal with in the very short term, hopefully as short as possible. So those are the things that I would definitely see as helping with health and wellness.
All right, thank you. Jamie Ceruto.
So, within the schools in particular, within the high school in the last several years, there's been the emergence of the student center, the walk-in student center with open services, school psychologist, student assistance counselor, open to everybody, as well as the guidance counselors. I think it's important to provide staff with the same and similar resources as well. To Christina's point, talking about how, sometimes it's always assumed that it is a particular age group, but I think all of us have to be conscious of our social and emotional, both our learning, which we have been focused on in this district, but also, how we wake up each day and the challenges that we face having to adapt to, for example, being late to a meeting, or like myself getting accidentally kicked off of this, and taking, every second and to be very mindful of what's going on. The two-way communication, it's a two-way street. Speaking up when you need help, speaking up and having those resources available, but knowing when to speak up and providing the education and the opportunities for the students to reach out is really, really important. Publicizing the student centers, and I think the board has to make sure that we have adequate staffing, and we have to make sure that we're publicizing and continuing to have these symposiums for parents and community members as we have done, and making sure that our policies reflect and, not necessarily create barriers or constraints, but create that mindset and that, that vision to have a balanced school day, balanced homework, so that you can go and have fun after school and go hang out with friends, athletics, and go to sleep and get enough sleep so that you can wake up and do it all over again.
All right, thank you. Louis Shen.
Yeah, first, I think the district needs to foster a culture of awareness. I think we need to keep it front and center to keep the students' well-being in mind, instead of focusing only narrowly on certain academic traits. And I think the district is definitely doing that, because in the past couple of years, we've made a lot of efforts, the student center, the survey, but we need to keep it going. For example, the survey, if you do it once, you get a number of, 90% of the people feel stressed. Then you do something, then you don't monitor it the year later, then you don't really see the difference whether the measures put in place has made a difference. So I think, first of all, people have to be accepting of that culture, that the guidance counselor, the teachers are constantly looking out for signs to help the students. And for our staff members, we should provide as much support as possible, especially during this challenging time. At the same time, I also think a little bit more structure in a way can help. That's why we did the new homework policy, where students should know when the teacher will give them feedbacks, how many big projects they're expected to do this year. So with more planning, it helps. I think every parent knows that when you teach the kids to plan for their days, all of a sudden the house is no longer so chaotic. And I've actually advocated for a roadmap to success earlier part during my board member time. And this is before COVID. Hopefully we can continue that effort, because new parents, when they come into the community, they're often at a loss. Your elementary school years go by so fast, you don't know what's happening. You think the kids are just doing fine. Then by the time you hit 8th grade, early high school, now you're in panic mode. You feel you're not fully prepared. So I'm hoping the district can give better guidance in the future from a much earlier age, so people know what to expect down the road.
All right, thank you. 60 seconds more on this topic. Christina DeCosmo.
Okay. It would be interesting to hear how students felt about their health and wellness and their anxieties and stressors, and what they would like to help them with that. Because even the workshop that I spoke of before, that 2-day workshop I spoke of before, there was a high school student that was a presenter that she started a club in her school. Basically the idea of health and wellness and mindfulness. Just the thought in listening to others speak is maybe a survey for the students to see what they felt and how they thought about themselves, of their stressors and anxieties.
Right. Thank you. Alex Saltzman.
I just want to add that even keeping parents aware of what's upcoming. Louis mentioned this, as we did start making progress on this roadmap to give parents kind of a roadmap. Really, this is really from the elementary school up to the middle school, up to the high school, just knowing what's coming up and sharing that with the kids, I think would help diffuse some of the stress and prepare them for what's coming up next. So I think this kind of falls under the communication umbrella. Yeah, that's something that I would add.
All right, thank you. Jamie Ceruto.
I think a roadmap is certainly, and I remember we discussed it in communications committee, is definitely a something that I think we should pick up on again, and creating kind of a a guide, a roadmap for the district, and kind of understand the options that are out there. As I spoke about a little bit earlier in our forum, there are a lot of different, in this community, there have been different stereotypes. There have been different, there's been a lot of, talk on the streets, and we have a great reputation here. And, cutting through a lot of the dialogue into the core beliefs of this district, and, our history and understanding is sometimes very difficult, and the philosophies are very difficult to new residents and new district families. And I think it's important to provide that, as well as understanding that, you as a family, as a student, you direct your path within this district. If you need to follow your passions, you need to understand what is important to you. What do you want to get out of your educational experience, with the balance of what the board is and the district is providing? Because ultimately, that is what's going to matter long term, not necessarily what kind of grade that you got on a report card, or whether you did this or that for a resume. It's about what are those really core beliefs and principles that you were able to take out of your experience within the school district. And I think Alex, Louis, and I are certainly committed to providing excellent education through that system.
Thank you. And Louis Shen.
Yeah, just to further add on that, I think at higher level in high school, we're trying to provide as much option as possible for the students to pursue what they want to do. So for example, if you really want to do the AP path, take on a lot of AP courses, you can. But if you don't want to do that, you can also succeed in your life pursuing college. And also, if you want to pursue art, we should provide different kind of options. But people need to be aware of those options from early on, because I hear a lot of parents when they reach high school, they say, you know what, if I knew this earlier when my kids were in elementary school, I probably would have approached it differently. And I think it's the district's responsibility to address that issue if we can.
All right, thank you. We're almost wrapped up, but we have time for part of one last question. So what I'll do with this question is just have, if each of you can provide a up to 90-second answer, but we won't have a 60-second follow-up after that. So, and this question will be for Alex Saltzman first. And the question is, what do you think are the 3 major goals for the district during the next 3 years?
Diversity and inclusion, ensuring that we keep an eye on achieving our goals there. Facilities planning and management, I think it's hugely important because it does improve the quality of the actual environment, and also prevents us from having to spend a lot of money on last minute fixes. The third one, I would say the theater and drama department and the arts. The arts is something that I've experienced, somewhat through my children, but also by going to the shows at the high school. Hopefully one day all that stuff will return. It's just a mind-blowing experience to see the kids perform, and I'm sure it's a lot of work. And so those are the 3 things.
All right, thank you. Jamie Ceruto.
I think some of the 3 out of many that you could think of, I think, is real world education and really, being a part of the community, both the school community and the community that's surrounding our buildings within Millburn Township, within the downtown, within Taylor Park, my favorite place in town. Becoming real global citizens, which includes global diversity, inclusion, and understanding how we need to treat each other and how we need to prepare in order to be successful and to give everybody a fair shot in whatever fields we go into. Because we are a top district, we need to set the bar high, and I think it's very important. I think the arts and theater and drama, to Mr. Zaltzman's point, as well, I think are really, really important. And I'd really love to see a new high school auditorium at some point, as well as, there was a major jump this year, for example, having a 3rd night for the musical, which, it's like Broadway level. It's unbelievable. In addition to having our Paper Mill Playhouse in town, as well as looking at our growing enrollment, the developments coming into town, facilities, finance, planning are really, really important. And with the changing of our community, alongside working with the township committee and our local government partners, we need to make sure we're prepared.
All right, thank you. Louis Shen.
Yes, I know 3 years seems like a long time, but I have to say, first thing first, we have to get through this COVID thing together. And probably I don't even know whether it will be over by the end of next year. Even if it's completely over, I think we can learn quite a few lessons from this challenging experience. And these days, some students are actually saying they enjoy the smaller classes due to the COVID measures. And maybe we can use some of the technologies we've utilized to make the students' life better. In a way, in a broader term, what I'm trying to say, we need to adapt to the times. we need to make sure we keep up the technology, keep up the new approach, and get our students better prepared for example, some of the colleges are changing their standards of accepting students, and I'm hoping we're prepared for that. And second thing is, I think we need to keep going strong of what we had before. I really think our district has quite a few good things going for us academically, socially, and other things. When we make changes, we really want to be careful that we don't lose the great things we already have. That's why I say, we need to maintain our excellence. And third of all, of course, upon that basis, let's make improvements, especially in the part of equity and inclusion and embracing new cultures, new elements of the society. And I think there are a lot of work we can do together and to make this district much stronger.
Thank you. And Christina DeCosmo.
Okay, so when I heard the question, my first thought was COVID, that these next 3 years dealing with getting out of COVID, dealing with returning to normalcy, returning to feeling the normalcy. I also feel that, creating well-rounded individuals, the students, like ultimately as they go through all their schooling, that they come out a well-rounded person. And I actually live in walking distance of the high school, and I have gone to the school plays. They are very good. I think like my answer is going to be more broadly what's always going to be goals, like keeping up on technology, because it is forever changing. Keeping up on communications, and just growth in growing, and always wanting to improve and become better. And just broadly speaking, those are more those like 4 areas, but that's basically communication, technology, growth, improvements, and getting out of COVID, and creating well-rounded individuals in society.
All right, thank you. Thanks again to our viewers and our candidates for your willingness to serve our students. It's now time for your closing statement. As a reminder, you have up to 90 seconds. And we'll begin with Jamie Ceruto.
Thank you, John, Lauren, everybody, Amy, the PTOC, our Ed Foundation, all of our supporters of our great district, and to all the candidates for stepping up. This has been really a wild year to serve on the Millburn Board of Education, but it's really been a privilege. Growing up in this community, spending the last 18 and a half, 19 next Tuesday, has really been exciting. There's been so many moving parts here and a lot of great changes for the better. I've been able to bring my perspective as a student leader, a community leader, and ultimately as a student to the Millburn Board of Education, become the youngest elected official in the state when sworn in this January. And I think it's important to continue to have a unified board and the consistency, as we've seen. We have members of the board who represent all different constituencies, but ultimately we are all here to support all 5,000 students. We have a very diverse board in thinking and in very solution-oriented, and I think we can continue our path to excellence and go beyond with myself, Jamie Ceruto, Louis Shen, and Alex Saltzman. Thank you to the community, and make sure you get out and vote. Bring your ballot to Town Hall, the Board of Elections, mail it, or go to the polls on November the 3rd. Let's keep moving Millburn forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Louis Shen.
Yes, again, thank you for you guys organizing this event, and thank you for everyone thank you to everyone for showing up. Especially thank you, Christina, for running in the campaign, because without you putting your name in the ring, we wouldn't be having this. And I think it's really important when we have events like this to speak directly to the parents and to get our viewpoints out so people can understand what kind of people we are and where we're coming from. And I'm gonna try to keep it short because it's the end of a long night. I feel we can do a lot more as a unified board in the past, there has been a lot of turnovers in our town. When people only come here for one term, it takes, a year and a half to learn what is going on. And you try to achieve a relationship with your fellow board member. Guess what? Then that fellow board member leaves and you are there by yourself. And when we have people running for re-elections and stay consistent, some of the agenda items will be able to go through after years of research and work. And I think it's hard to find people share the same vision, even though we have such diverse different backgrounds. So I'm very proud to be on the same ticket with Jamie and Alex. And tonight, it's a more restrictive format. So if you guys want to know about us a little bit more, on October 17th, we have our own little virtual event. Come over, the link is on the Facebook, just register, and we can elaborate on what we think on different topics then. So thank you so much.
Right, thank you. Christina DeCosmo.
All right, so thank you to everyone involved tonight. I did enjoy the discussions. I enjoyed hearing everyone's views and learning more about everyone. I do truly wish the best of luck to everyone. And just very random, when in the beginning, when we had to fill out the paperwork for the Essex County Clerk Office, there was that 3-word statement, which I had misunderstood. I took it as putting 3 of your qualities. I didn't really understand it was, one phrase. So qualities that I feel that I have that I value, being altruistic, having strong integrity, and possessing even-handed justice. Yeah, I enjoyed being here this evening. It was nice hearing everyone. Again, best of luck to everyone. I do love Millburn. Millburn has, so much to offer. Like, talked about the paper mill, the park. It's a very, quaint little town, and I've met. All right, thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you. And Alex Saltzman.
I just want to acknowledge and thank the parents that are continuously involved, especially those who participate in our board meetings. I feel that if we can get even more participation in our board meetings, it would be helpful to the community. This year, I've enjoyed serving on the board. I think this is the year where personally I've been able to make really the most difference is when, unfortunately, in the situation operating out of crisis mode. But this is really the time when we all are asked to shine and to bring our best and to serve for what we have been elected to do. I've enjoyed working with Louis, with Jamie, the rest of the board members, our superintendent, Dr. Burton, and enjoyed meeting Christina on this session. So I wish everyone the best. And I also want to encourage others to continue volunteering, to consider running for the board in the following years. Please follow us, follow the work that we all do, the hard work that we put in, and to be a part of this. You really can make a difference. So I really do want to encourage people to consider running for the board and to continue volunteering at our schools locally at the PTO level. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again to our candidates. Thanks to Millburn PTOC, Amy Talbert, Lauren Balladay. Hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, everybody. And thank you, John, for moderating. And I just want to say thank you to all the candidates for putting themselves out there. And it was great getting to know you guys and also hearing what you have to say. And again, thank you for all your work and for putting your hat in the ring too. It's as I said before, it is a selfless job, and it is and we, those of us that aren't on the board, really appreciate all that you guys do. So thank you again for coming to the forum. Thanks everybody for watching. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board meeting on the 26th.